you ready?
When have we ever just fucking ran? Okay, sometimes we do, but I think lame as fuck to just run with it instead of running out the count. That's how it's gotta go, you know? Because if we can't even count right, how are we mentally ready to do the podcast, you know?
Look, sometimes life just doesn't give you ocho. You have to live with it, Vindy.
Nope. I refuse.
Okay. Alright. Comments, I guess, if they'd fucking load for me.
Damn. Is like
I'll start off with an important comment. Weekly Code Geass podcast. Let's go.
All right. I take it back. This guy sucks. That's just me talking about none, not me reading a comment. Hold on.
I mean, there's a lot of comments about the One Piece Morge thing.
Oh,
that you guys
yeah. Dot getting fucking not self-owned, but Dot getting owned by everyone is so good. So I got to go into it. Here's how you know this guy's still like, I love how hard he will just come to play devil's advocate for bad takes and then get proven that they're just bad takes every time, right? Like that is a Dot constant. He comes in, he's like, you know what? I think dismissing Morge's videos is dumb and wrong before he's ever even released it is really cringe. Even though, like, our argument was, if he says that Wano has no thematic through line, he's just dumb and wrong and missed the point of the arc. Like, to a degree where, right, like, it's, you know, if that's what he's going to go into the video and say, it went so over his head that there's no point. Like, obviously, there's maybe point to watching the video, but, like, obviously, you know, he missed the point so bad that, like, the video is going to just be bad. You know what I mean? Like, he missed it. There's no world where you can be that wrong as your premise and make a good video. You know what I mean? Just, it is what it is. And then there was someone, and then Sean McKnight, just to fucking slam it, is like, no, he definitely said that Wano has incoherent and no themes. He said it, like, multiple times. So just, like, we were, like, justified in what we said. Dot got owned. You love to see it, you know?
Did your comments load, Craftsdwarf?
There's too many fucking long comments to read, like, on the fucking fly. Like, this is bullshit.
Damn, Craftsdwarf. You don't even, like, look at the comments at least, like, the day of?
Yeah, I looked a little bit beforehand.
Here's what I will say, because I look at the comments the day the episode comes out, and I check it throughout that day, and I read them all, like, the day the episode comes out. But, like, a lot of people commented the next days with, like, these long-ass comments. So I have not gotten a second to read some of these. And then some people, Luna, 10 hours ago, like, hello? Oh, my God. How am I supposed to see this before recording?
Luna was busy vlogging and call with me and Dot.
I was, like, at work during this.
More things to do than leave a comment. That's why it was 10 hours ago.
Okay, so Luna brings up that he thinks that, you know, sometimes seeing how well an adaptation uses its medium to enhance the story in its own way. He thinks that Naruto and Boruto anime do that well and that they're not consistent, but if they can do the moments that you really love, well, that's all he asks. I think that's actually a good, like, thing that we didn't bring up, which is that, like, you know, sometimes, especially for me with, like, One Piece or, like, any shonen series, really, and there's a lot of them where it's like, look, sometimes the benefit of having it adapted is just, like, you have an easier way to see that moment, and sometimes it is just, like, the better way to see that moment. You know what I mean? Like, if I ever want to see any moment from, like, fucking episode, like, 10, 15 of One Piece, right? I'm not going to go find that little moment and read it in the manga. Why would I? When, like, the greatest montage ever put to fucking cell shading, or however
fucking God,
is in that episode. Like, why would I ever just not watch it? You know what I mean? And fucking cry my eyes out every time. So, like, in that instance, you know, like, you could do, or, like, you know, why would I ever be like, oh, you know what? I'm really feeling like I have an hour to kill and I really want to experience Naruto Sasuke. Let me read it. No, I'm not ill. I'll watch it. You know what I mean? Like, I think having that ability to, even if, like, maybe the exposition, like, is a little bit slower because, like, it's got to be said to you as opposed to you reading it a lot faster. even like stuff like that exists, like having the moments that slap and can slap harder in animation, and even just a way that like kind of hits harder going back to it and stuff with music and all these other things is like really helpful, and I think can not only is like something that like is something people enjoy about it, but it like can also make you like the moment more, you know what I mean? Because sometimes like I've definitely come to appreciate scenes more sometimes if I like watch it a couple times, like a scene that I really like, you know what I mean? Because you like pick up more on it, and you can be like, ooh, that shit hit different, you know what I mean?
I want to add a little more to Luna's comment and say that like the Boruto anime is a very good example of like something as an adaptation just being interesting. And I'm not even just saying like interesting as in like interesting automatically means good. Interesting as in just like interesting to think about it as an adaptation, whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah.
Just because of that aspect of everything in the anime is canon to the manga, and it's at least trying to fill in some of those gaps that the manga has, partially due to Ikimoto's not necessarily stacking up to Kishimoto in my opinion, and then also just the fact that like the manga focuses on Naruto, Sasuke, Boruto, Kawaki, and Sarada a little bit, whereas the anime, that's where you really get the next generations aspect, where you get to see all the like other characters do things.
I think
and that's just very different than like most adaptations that have ever existed for like shonen manga. It's definitely not a common thing.
How Math was put it on our Boruto episode, which only covers like before Kawaki even becomes a thing, is like she said it feels like a shortened or Cliff Notes. Maybe I forget her exact wording, but it feels like it's just kind of like going through things like quickly. Where like Mitsuki's not even a fucking like there's like one chapter where we see his kind of a backstory, I guess, but he's barely even a fucking character in the manga, and let alone the whole rest of the next generation characters who will get entirely focused episodes in the anime that I think are good, so it's definitely, I'm very curious to get back to the manga, by the way.
It's definitely one of those adaptations that's very worth discussing whether you think it's good or bad. Obviously I think it's good, but
well, I think another point that I'll even give, and this is I think even just pure in the favor of the Boruto anime, as someone who hasn't seen it but is, or I mean seen clips and a couple episodes maybe and read a little bit of the manga, like the beginning of the manga does not look like Kishimoto's art at all, and sometimes like he will draw Sasuke and I'm like, look, that is not Sasuke, like stop lying to me, you know what I mean? Like do not tell me that is Sasuke, it clearly is not, just look at him. And that's like the anime, at least like because of how it is, like it looks like Naruto still, you know what I mean? Like there isn't like a massive visual style change. There's a little bit of one, but not one where you never look at the characters like, that's not Sasuke. Like he looks like Sasuke in every scene, and some of these fucking panels in Boruto, he just like looks like someone else. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But are there any other comments? Did we stall enough for Crafts you to read? There's one guy who's talking about you.
I mean, I feel like we should mention Oblivion's comment, since he left so much. At least mention it, even if we can't like read all of it.
Which one?
The Oblivion comment.
Let me read it really quickly.
Because I mean, it was definitely a pretty thoughtful comment. So like, I don't want to just like not bring it up.
Okay, so he's talking about filler. I think here's the problem with filler ultimately, is that I think filler goes directly against how a lot of people consume and want to consume their media currently, and I think like the biggest tell of this is like how much people don't like spoilers, right? Like I think like a lot, like part of the reason that spoiler culture is what it is because what people care the most about is what physically happens, right? People only care about the plot. Everything's very plot centric, and so because of that, filler like doesn't have that, right? Filler doesn't advance the plot, right? And that's why people will even like not want to get into shows that are a lot longer, a lot slower, because they just want, you know what I mean? They want the plot to be advancing. They want story, they want to see like the next thing. And I think filler, it's just adding time. You know what I mean? Like it's literally filler. It's there to pad it out. And like, while you can have good padding, and it's not like an inherently bad thing, I think it's very understandable for people to just like be negative to it. Like, it makes sense to me why people are so immediately like anti-filler, because I do like understand it where, you know, if you're just watching Naruto and you're like, I just want to get the fucking story, dude. Like, this shit is just in the way and like not helping you. You know what I mean? Especially like, I don't know. I have a hard time with like the Naruto filler, especially for like the shit right after Sasuke retrieval. You know what I mean? Maybe if none and I ever finish the Naruto podcast, we'll get to it. But like literally like Sasuke leaves and that's like what, like 160? And then it goes to 220 and it's just filler. It's like 167, I think, or some shit is when Sasuke leaves.
No, and I watched one arc of that because what happens is in Boruto, in the Wave Country arc, there is a girl who's part of the sort of civil faction fighting against the Mist Country from the Mist Country, and she mentions Naruto killed her fucking dad, and I pause and I'm like, what the fuck? Because that kind of, Naruto's, and Sasuke very specifically, I mean, like, Naruto doesn't really kill any of his foes, he talks them, except for Kakuzu, who's, and like Sasuke kills like a couple samurai, like they very deliberately don't kill very many people, so I was like, that kind of changes Naruto, so I'm gonna go watch that filler arc and see what happened. Yeah, Naruto didn't really kill him, just like,
I watched
but the arc
clip to make sure to like, wait, did he kill him in there? Because I mean, I've seen it before.
But that arc started because I think Rock Lee was like Sasuke, and Naruto's like Sasuke, and apparently I think you and Luna talked, or someone was talking about how a lot of those filler arcs start with some hack-and-eyed fucking maybe Sasuke will be involved, and Naruto like goes after because Sasuke, which is so fucking stupid.
And every arc is Naruto goes with this ninja team. So he goes with Ino Shikacho, and he goes with, Hinata and Kiba and Shino. Thank you.
I think in this
one,
and
he goes with Rock Lee. Yeah. And so it's just like him going off with all the team pairings and like doing a little arc. It's like, ooh, maybe Sasuke. It's like, this is so like, if like it's noticeable watching it. You know what I mean? Like, and I think because it's noticeable, like I get why people are like, just fucking take me to when like. Just take me to when like I shit happens. You know what I mean? Right. So like I get it, and I get why people don't like it. And I think that like filler and how much you like it will like almost proportionally scale to how much you like the characters, right? So like One Piece, people love the crew. So people who really love the Straw Hats and really love the crew are gonna enjoy filler because like they just get to spend more time with the characters they love.
Which fucking sucks because the One Piece anime specifically like it probably has the least amount of filler episodes. I think if you compared it to Naruto, at least it definitely has less filler episodes, or not as in not anime original content, because it mostly spreads its adaptation by just stretching out manga content, even though it's literally the fucking perfect anime original content machine, just by virtue of how it's structured. Like, just add like 5 islands in and then just adapt Wano like fast or something like that.
And
but
it's so funny too, because like I don't know if you feel this way, right? But like, how people like when you look at it, right? You look at like all this, like the early anime, like especially like the first half and like pre-Fishman Island, that like people generally like and say it's paced well. And there's a lot more filler arcs and like little filler islands that they stop at. And it's like ever since Fishman Island, there's like 2-3 filler arcs. And it's like also drawing everything out. It's like, why don't you just put in filler arcs? Like people would love it if Wano was 100 episodes less,
Most of the anime original content stuff are like short little arcs they'll do to tie into the movie. Like the most recent one was a 2-episode Film Red prequel thing, basically. And then they've done one for like every movie for a while now. And that's basically all we get. Like, even they never even adapted the cover stories. Come on. Like,
I think my slight counterpoint to what you guys are saying is just because like it's one of those things where like I think One Piece's anime is more worried about contradicting the world building, since like people view One Piece's world building as so intricate and so important to the appeal of the story.
I mean, the anime still fucks that up regularly.
I get that, but it's like it's still to the point where like Oda does all these callbacks and all these tying together of islands, and if they just start adding islands in their own anime original ideas, they might end up stepping on the toes of like something that's similar to what Oda's gonna do or something.
I think the
especially
other,
with how
like,
particular they are with like movies lately, and having
the other
Oda
biggest
involved.
argument that they could make is also that like since Dressrosa, so what, 2012 until Wano, the crew hasn't all been together.
Yeah.
So like for all that time, they how are they gonna go like, oh yeah, this half and this half and this guy who's just like not even with the crew right now? Hey, they're all together somewhere else having a good time.
Well, I'm gonna bring that up. Well, I'll just bring it up now because I was gonna talk about it later when I talk about my backlog thing. Because I watched One Piece Film Red, and I was even thinking about. Oh, see, that's the thing is the movies have kind of never actually cared in that sense. To the first example that I can think of being One Piece Film 3, which has all the Straw Hats through Chopper, but it doesn't have Vivi or Robin, which doesn't make sense because after Alabasta, like, Vivi left, and literally right after, Robin was already stowed away on their ship when they said goodbye, farewell to Vivi. So already you have
there's no
the Straw
time where
Hats
that
there.
could happen. Yeah.
Exactly, right. But it's like, okay, if they include Vivi in the movie, they have to explain who the fuck this character is because she's not actually a Straw Hat. There's every arc that she's involved in involves either the Baroque works or Drum Island involved Walpole, where we literally see a flashback to her at the Reverie, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like she's literally a figure, you know, and so really since then, like there are movies that fit in more or less, but then there's movies that don't, and Film Red is very much, and basically honestly, since I'd say, since the post-time skip, it's almost basically been a straight shot, so it's kind of really hard to fit stuff in, and, you know, Film Red is very much one of them, where, like, you know, Jinbei's on the crew, but, there's certain other, like, and there's certain other characters who show up in the movie, and, like, you know, it doesn't make sense for when the movie, you know, because obviously Wano's not even done yet in the anime, so there's certain things they can't really, it doesn't make sense, but, you know, that's kind of, like, how the movies have been in general, honestly, for a while now, like I said. And then never even fucking mind the Drum Island movie where they're just like, it's adapting Chopper's thing, but also Vivi's not there, and Robin and Frankie are. Fuck you. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, because I do want to, let's finish Oblivion's comic, because was there any more you want to talk about the filler part? Because there's also the One Piece part.
You know, I think here's what I will say. We talked a little bit last episode about One Piece. We talked a little bit about it right now, and you know, clearly you and I have a lot to say about it and about this. So maybe
you guys are tight.
We need to either do, you know, if this Morge video comes out and is what it is, do that, or just do something to talk about it, because I think people seem to have a lot to say about Wano. And I think you and me have a lot to say about it. And I think it is what it is.
Okay.
You can help stretch Craftsdwarf's Wano discussion to 20 hours. Got the next
I would love to help with that, yeah. I would love to play my part.
We're 7 away. I mean, and I think we're still like, over a week before the last part of almost 5-hour discussion on Roof Piece comes out. And the following, Jesus. Were you going to say something? Sorry.
No.
Okay. And lastly, I did finally read the full box story comment. I think he maybe, because I did say that, like, well, because I do agree with him in that I do think there, like, obviously a lot of the, you know, movie has to happen in a sense, or like, okay, because it's all in his head. Like, obviously not literally everything that happens in his head. More what I was trying to get at was that, like, the film very sort of clearly establishes its language, if you, like, at least in the beginning and the end. Because the scene opens and, like, he goes to get a drink at a bar and he literally calls her a dumb bitch and she just doesn't react, which I sort of took as the movie establishing its language that, did I mention American Psycho? Yeah, that's what the comments talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, just, like, wait, hold on, before I go into this. But anyway, and, like, so that sort of established the film's language is that it's going to show his fantasy as though it's reality, but the world isn't going to react to it because it's just his fantasy. And then obviously the ambiguous point is specifically in the middle of the movie when he fantasizes about killing one of his coworkers, and then at the same time he just happened to take a business trip to Europe, and, like, which, you know, so there's, again, like, there's some ambiguity. Did, like, he sort of retroactively consider these things, or, like, what the fuck happened? We don't even see the guy. It is bizarre, and it's sort of meant to, like, oh shit, is reality, like, that's part of the, I guess, you know, thrill of the movie, right? And I'm not saying that, like, because there's a bunch of other stuff that happens too, and yeah, I guess, like, with my reading the movie, I guess, like, you know, the one thing that could have definitely happened as far as, like, bad thing, like, I personally don't think that he killed anyone, but I'm also not, like, against other interpretations of reading the movie. I was just, you know, kind of quickly explaining what I thought, and, you know, they offer their interpretation of the movie, and I think at least from the quick glance I had to do through it, it seems like pretty solid and good reading, you know, but you know, I didn't mean to give my reading as though, like, no other interpretation is possible. but I was kind of just in a backlog, just giving. I was even considering making a video on the movie even, but I don't know if maybe I still I want to do so many videos.
You should
but
read
I
the book
have
if you
no
do
time. Well, okay, that's definitely means I'm not going to make the video.
And you should watch the sequel.
Oh my god, that's right. I did see that on Letterboxd.
Yeah. That's a video right there.
Well, because what I was thinking about, because my friend reminded me of something, is how there's like a whole internet community of people who like really idealize Bateman.
Yeah, dude,
and,
the
like,
Sigma grinders, dude. Bateman is the face of the Sigma grind set. Hello?
Well, and what interested me about it, because what he pointed out was just how like they kind of forget how he's kind of a doofus in the movie. Like I mentioned the ATM scene where he's just like out of his mind and doing something really dumb and silly, and it's kind of funny. But like what I even remembered watching the movie is that like at the end of the day, he is also trying to evoke the idea of Patrick Bateman, which all these, like he himself is trying to exemplify this ideal that he is not, even though he literally is Patrick Bateman, I guess, which I just remember thinking, that's kind of interesting that, so I don't know. I'd have to actually do research into that community as well if I wanted to talk about it. But, I guess I'm saying that I don't think I got my full thoughts across last time, so I just wanted to reiterate some stuff. So, yeah.
Sad.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We're moving on to the Reddit question mark.
I have another comment I want to talk about, too.
I was just going to say Lime Phoenix is surprised no one brought up Fate. That's because the only thing I finished that belongs in, that's Fate related at all is I watched the first season of Prisma Ilia.
All right.
I don't know shit about Fate.
This fucking
and a million
guy.
dungeons, but those don't count.
Okay, I want to talk about Prisma Ilia for a second. So look. I like the Fate VN a lot, right? I think Shiro's fucking cool as fuck, great character, and I love the way that like Fate explores him as a character and his central like ideal in 3 different ways, right? Cool, great, I love it. Misogynistic king. There's like this page I've seen that's like sometime late in Prisma Ilia that looks so fucking cool. Or I don't know if it's late, but it's like at least like the second like part of it or whatever that looks so cool. And it's like this Shiro moment that looks awesome. So it's like I'm gonna read Prisma Ilia just to get to this cool Shiro page. I could not get in. It was too much for me. It was tough. It's so sad too. I wanted to read it so bad, and I never could. But I had a comment from EL Ace. I just want to talk about it because like, dog, it's 2023, and he says like, is the only podcast 2022 been crazy, bro? It's the next year, and they went off talking about how Niseko's anime is good, so it doesn't even matter. I forgave the wrong year.
Also, sorry, I was just reading another comment explaining Wano takes people have, and like everyone just makes me go like, what the fuck?
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying, yeah.
But I'm not saying we're fine. That was the voids. I just saying like, sorry, I was a little distracted because I was reading that and just being like, how are people so stupid?
No, I know, but my thoughts now, like that I think about it more, it's like, look,
yeah.
You and Mathwiz have your big brain civil Wano discussion. Now it's time for us to delve into the shit of bad Wano takes, come out toxic and ready for blood. You know what I mean?
Actually, on your fucking wow.
What?
Kind of weird.
So anyway, I'm ready to move on to the Reddit.
All right.
So yeah, the first one is the brain Kimono Friends. That there was an old sort of like response to that anime, except it's been altered to be Nun's thoughts on Code Geass, and the last bubble is literally just Suzaku. It's great.
I thought it was funny.
I love Kimono Friends, by the way. Banger show.
And then the next one is just, the images are funny, but...
Lelouch kind of fucking... Sheesh. Look at me like that, sir.
I just don't understand why it's Weeb Club after recording. Okay.
I have only one slight complaint about the last one, and it has he instead of teehee. I'm much more of a teehee kind of guy.
What do you mean?
I prefer teehee.
Where do you see the hee?
In the second image. I mean, not the second. So, the post before Master Spoon. I'm not talking about the Master Spoon.
Oh, you're right. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. I was like looking at the 2 Code Geass images. I was like, where the fuck is there a hee? I was like, I thought it was like one of those colorblind tests, and I just actually was colorblind.
I don't blame you for looking at those.
Thank you.
All right,
it's just hard not to.
Vindy, you want to introduce the topic?
Yeah,
since you suggested it?
I wanted to talk about long form storytelling and some of like the specificities of it, both in like how, but not like, I think specifically from like a like, you know, what are things that like ways that, you know, either tropes that you only see or things you only see in really long stories, or like things that like end up happening in stories just because they're really long is like a virtue of that. So like, to give an example of like the second one, I think like a really good example is like when people bring up like power creep, you know what I mean? And that happens just, you know, by nature of like, which like we did like a whole, there's a video somewhere on this channel. I think it's you and me talking about it.
I think, it was, I think,
EWB.
There's a video on the channel somewhere where we talk about power creep in a lot more detail, but like, you know, that's something that is
a topic.
I don't know if it was a topic or an EWB. It might have been an EWB with just you and me. But
I think it's or it might have been both, because I'm pretty sure we addressed it as a topic, just generally talking about it, probably because of a patron vote. And we've possibly also done EWBs on videos that discussed it in some way.
The power escalation, you guys definitely probably talked about power creep, and then there is specifically a topic about power creep or power escalation.
So we've talked about it a lot, so I won't go too into it, but just like, you know, that's something that can only exist in a long story because it's so long, and especially because generally long form stories are either, you know, episodic or they're like serialized, so there's like a little bit coming out, you know, every like week, or, you know, it's kind of like a show where like a different, like a show where you get like a season at a time, right? Like a Netflix show where you get like a big chunk and then it's, you know, a year longer and then another big chunk, right? Or that's, you know, kind of how like game series that, you know, continue a story go. And like, you know, power creep comes up.
Because I was going to bring up Gurren Lagann as a good example, because as far as like power escalation, it goes literally from like one end of the scale to the other, basically, like, you know, in literally 26 episodes, but it's not really seen in the same way because there's literally only two main antagonists in the entire show, right? Like, it's not like, okay, well, they're fighting Pilaf and then fucking 500 chapters later they're fighting Frieza and Boo, right? Like, you know, it's not really considered in the same way because, again, it's not doing it to have a long story. So because it's a lot shorter, it feels, and like, not to say it isn't, there's an intentionality behind it in Dragon Ball, but it feels much more intentional that Gurren Lagann like is a story that has to be at this scale because it's about this scale and like this is what the story is. Whereas, like, you know, I'm sure for people, especially consuming a story serialized, it's like, okay, you know, this arc there was like this new strongest guy and you beat him, you know, and there's like a fatigue that sets in through that like consumption of a story over a long period of time. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Right. Like, I don't remember the author. I want to say it was Araki because just like he kind of wanted to avoid, like he wrote JoJo to avoid having the you know, oh, that guy, he was the weakest, I'm the strongest kind of thing. And he did do that in part 2 with Santana, where, you know, he got the Pillar Man come out and they're like, oh yeah, he was like a baby Pillar Man, he was nothing. But then like overall in JoJo, you know, because of how he structures the powers and story, he kind of avoids that, even though he has a very long running manga. But, you know, I think I'm, you know, yeah, we've talked about it. I'm perfectly fine with, you know, how, I mean, you know, it's a little like when I guess, I don't know. The other thing is I've just gone through so many series that there's some stuff where I've just like, yeah, I'm familiar with it. I'm over it. I'm not going to get mad at it, even if I don't care for it, you know, because, yeah, the, oh, I'm the weakest is just a little like, yep, sure, you know, or, yeah. I was trying to think of other examples, but now my brain has stopped.
I mean, my favorite example of a series kind of giving its own reason for it is actually like Kingdom Hearts. I think does it really like interestingly, where for different reasons in every game, especially like for the numbered titles, Sora always starts out at level 1. So like he like gets a lot stronger by the end of every game, but then something happens, like, so essentially it's what happens in Recom means that in 2 he starts out at level 1 because, and like his kind of abilities have been reset even though he's like gotten older. And then what happens in Dream Drop, well, the nature of Dream Drop means he has to reset, and then what happens in Dream Drop makes it so that he goes back to level 1 at the start of 3. So like the game has like in story reasons every time, that Sora, his like strength gets reset. So like,
and I assume that they feel like, because like in Metroid, for example, she just kind of like runs like she technically starts out weaker than the whatever previous game in general, and then she also loses her powers and abilities, right? Like it's not like she starts out with the fucking gravity suit and 500 missiles and shit. She starts out for like 15 and then she loses all her missiles in Metroid Prime or something like that, right? But if there's I don't know, if there's a story reason, I don't fucking know. I don't know. Maybe I'm not up on my Metroid thematics, even though I've literally played most of the games. I mean, where at least with Kingdom Hearts, is there like a more story narrative thing going on there?
And none can. Sorry, actually, no. You go. You say your thoughts on it. Actually, I'm more curious to hear what you think.
I mean, I was gonna explain like probably my favorite instance of that, just because I don't fully like remember how it works with DD and into 3. Like I do kind of remember some of the specifics, but it's really clearly defined in like Recom or Com and 2, where like, to not spoil it, it's partially a sacrifice on Sora's part and a necessity for him to do this thing.
Here, I'll message you the
kind of make everything right, and kind of, like it's a very in character thing for Sora to do, and it means a lot for Sora and a different character. So I think it really works, and it's like really good, and it's like really makes the Sora gaining his powers back in 2 feel really rewarding and really cool to see.
And then obviously with that allows it to do like gameplay wise is like you start every game fighting the same basic heartless and then fight like kind of the same bosses throughout the game, like the same like big heartless enemies throughout the game as you get stronger. But it's not like, oh, the normal enemies are just way stronger this time. It's literally like you're just weak again and you got to do it again.
Okay. Yeah,
and I think that's a really interesting way to do it, because like it just sidesteps having like the idea of power creep where it's like, oh, my JRPG protagonist killed God. Generally the JRPG ends there and you have to find a new guy to start from, killing rats in his village to killing God. So, Kingdom Hearts just kind of sidesteps it by having the same characters by just being like, he's kind of dog shit again. And I respect it.
But yeah, so I've actually been thinking about the long form storytelling thing, because honestly I've just been on a big One Piece kick ever since I finished Wano, and I've just been like, yeah, One Piece.
Oh my God.
And I remember I was talking to my brother about spoilers and shit, and I was fucking like raising my voice just talking about certain shit things
you were
like
just
that had happened in the manga
screaming in his face.
Vindy, what Garp is about to go fucking do, I'm like, oh my fucking God. And I wasn't even thinking about it because like because I remember Nun a while ago, because I mentioned how I really like Blackbeard. I'm really fucking interested in him as a character and him being built up as like Luffy's most like he's just such a deep foil to Luffy, like literally since the first scene, and the more little tidbits we get from him just continue to like add lenses and facets to his character that I want. Luffy versus Blackbeard is gonna be, if it's, oh my god. And I was even just stepping back and think, because Nun, I think you reacted like, really, Blackbeard's one of your favorite antagonists in One Piece, and I've stepped back and it's like, why the fuck do I care about Blackbeard so much? The motherfucker's barely done anything, and yet every time he fucking shows up, and he's literally just like, I was literally like flipping through one of my Impel Down volumes, and I saw Luffy face off with Blackbeard, and I was fucking losing my shit over fucking manga I've read like 6 times, and I'm like, why do I care so much?
What?
Like, I don't even know if I have an answer, because like I've literally like will freak out about the like a little reveal or whatever, like when I lost my mind when Silver's Rayleigh first showed up, because I recognized him from Volume 3. And,
thinking about it now, I can kind of see why you would care about Blackbeard so much, because it's almost because you care about Luffy so much.
Oh,
the fact that you're seeing this guy who's the inverse of him and so much like him, and just the idea of like this guy being so similar to Luffy but on the opposite end, it's just inherently interesting. Like it's already building off of your love of Luffy, so it kind of that's reflects partially on Blackbeard.
That's interesting. That's not what I would have like said it as. I would have said that like, I think you care because like like the build up for this, like you've been getting planted these seeds of build up for Blackbeard, even though like it hasn't been a lot forever now, right? It was like a similar thing with like Vegapunk, right? Where there are these little seeds, and so because of that, like it's like Blackbeard is looming over like almost large sections of One Piece just because like he's there and you're thinking about him and you're not seeing him, and you see a little bit and then like what the fuck happened, like will I see it again, and then you see it again. And so I think that just causes it to like grow in your mind where, you know, it's like always exciting because there's so much anticipation around it, if that makes sense, all the time.
That's fair. Yeah.
It's like the lack of it makes him a big deal and makes you lose your shit when he's there.
And yeah, also like another thing I like about One Piece, because like honestly, I've honestly even thought that like maybe is it like, do I like One Piece just so much where like I made a joke with Dot because he was asking me some things about Wano, and I'm like, he's like, when's your arc where you're gonna turn on One Piece and hate it? And I'm like, you know, Oda could literally write a 300 chapter arc about Pound learning how to wash his dick, and I'd probably still go like, it's okay, like because I just kind of realized that like, you know, there like I mean I do have my issues or like minor nitpicks with One Piece every so often, but like at the end of the day, I've also noticed that like you know, I tend to like things that are more like One Piece in some way, or like One Piece has just sort of controlled so much of my taste, I feel like.
It's so foundational like to you, yeah.
It's so it's like I've spent so much time with it in different ways, like I mentioned the role play, and I've never written a One Piece fan fiction, but I did start planning one back in high school. That I look back on and now I'm like, oh god. But you know, it's just like just not even just like as a piece of art, but also like in regards to my storytelling, you know. And so, you know, I definitely, you know, maybe in that way I'm more forgiving to One Piece than a lot of people would be, which, you know, I think is fine. You know, I'm fine with people, you know, having problems with it. And if I provide it, you know, I mean, as long as it's, I don't like this, like people who don't like it for being goofy. I mean, if you made it 1,000 chapters and you didn't think it was going to still be goofy, like, I'm sorry that you misread One Piece, I guess, in that way, because like, what the fuck were you expecting? Like, dead dove do not eat, excuse me. You know, but yeah, so I was just thinking about how, like, you know, yeah, I like, yeah, just One Piece will just do these little things, and I'll, like, fucking read a chapter, and it'll end in some way, and I'll fucking, like, damn near swallow something, because, like, you know, Mr. Man in the current arc, Central Man, mentioned dragon at the end of one chapter, and I just, like, dragon! You know? So, like, I don't know, it just makes me lose my fucking mind. And yeah, I guess part of it is because it's a series I've been with a while, but yeah, it's a long series. It has this vast world with tons of characters, and you know, if like one of my good friends online, he's been on this fucking Gin copium for like as long as I've known him, because he's like, Gin's gonna come. He loves Gin. He from the fucking Baratier. Who's, I'm gonna meet you in the Grand Line, Luffy, and you know, he just loves his character.
It took me a second to remember who Gin
right?
is.
Like, that's the thing, is because I feel like if you're not on this copium that he's gonna come back in the new world and be a cool dude, then it's practically a joke. But you know, at the same time, I know that if he actually fucking showed up, I would be like, hey, have you read the chapter yet? And he's like, no. And I'm like, you should read the chapter. And then when he does, it's going to be like, dude, it happened. But it's, you know, it's not. But what if it does, you know? Like, I don't know. And something about, like, you know, the length of time is, like, the fact that Oda can, like, oh, this background character, he's finally real. Or, you know, this guy I've been hyping up for 500 chapters, he's finally real. Like, I don't know. It's just really cool. And it's, you know, One Piece is special in that way. You know, not that, because, yeah, I don't know. I just can't think of another series off the top of my head that's really done that in, but maybe it's just, I also just care about One Piece a lot, so you know,
something I was thinking about a bit, which might be a slight tangent, but also not, just about what I was saying about like Luffy aiding in your love for Blackbeard. I was thinking about just like when we first watched 3.0 plus 1.0, just those little details about how Gendo was like Shinji. Just like
yeah.
Even though like that like section of kind of showing his deal isn't really that long, but just like all the details you can fill in your mind about like how he's similar to Shinji just completely makes him just way better, and just like
it's just it's just a little bit of framing insanely. That goes a long way for sure. Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think honestly, long form stories like have the opportunity to do that easier than other stories.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Because like, and I think there's absolute value in both. Like we were kind of talking about last time, where it's like, sometimes people like long things for being long, but the day I watched American Psycho, even I just kind of like I was just feeling really sick, so I just was like, whatever, I'll just watch some literal random movies that I've seen before, but not in like years. And I watched The Sandlot, which was the baseball movie with the dog, and then American Psycho, which was, I don't know, a funny double feature now I think about it, because one was like, yeah, America, childhood, growing up, ideal at baseball and hot dogs, and then the other one was like fucking nihilism and materialism and like funny. But like I just was watching and I'm like, because I've been so lately kind of on this kick about like going through entire franchises, so stopping to watch a movie that's just a movie, and yeah, okay, yeah, they both have sequels and other shit, whatever, but like I was just like, yeah, something that's just short is cool too, that's fine, it's great even a lot of time. So that was just a feeling I had, but this is about long form storytelling. So
something else I wanted to bring up too was something I think about a lot when it comes to long form telling, and it's really just like when a character is wrong about something, it can last for a very long time, and I think that contributes to a lot of brain rot, but also it contributes to something that makes those kinds of stories super interesting. Like it's a little bit of a double-edged sword of like the fact that you're just gonna lose people who are gonna forever hold on to like thinking a character who was wrong was right or something, or whatever you have. But like I think it's a super interesting idea to just follow someone who's just completely wrong for a very extended period of time before they actually see the truth.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that gives you is, if you show more of a character and their viewpoint over a long period of time, when you show that like slow turn, it can be, not only, in some ways more realistic because, people change over, long periods of time. But also like you can just go more in detail with it, and show closer oh my God, words just like left my brain. Sorry, I just had like a stroke. You can show something that's more more realistic, more like what you would see in a real person, something that I think people can connect with, and it also just allows you to show what you're trying to show, like what the character's wrong about, in a lot more detail and really,
No, yeah, for sure. Like, I thought Naruto is a good example because, like, you have the Wave Country arc, which really, like, here's the point of Naruto that we're going to continue to explore for the rest of the entire story. And then you have all these characters who all, like, add their different perspectives on these ideas. And you have, like, Naruto and Sasuke's parallel journeys that also kind of, like, contrast each other and, like, how they deal with their foes. And it's like, yeah, by being a long story, it's doing something that, like, if you tried to do it in a movie, it would not work at all.
I mean, I wouldn't say it wouldn't work, but it's definitely different.
It would be like, it's very different, right? Kind of like, again, the Gurren Lagann example, where it's like, something just done over a quick period of time as you're watching it, or versus a longer period of time, just, feels very different, So, yeah.
Yeah, like, honestly, I feel like it really, like, gets me emotional when, like, this, like, just the entire time that they're just, like, either wrong unknowingly, or like if they partially know that they're wrong but like convince themselves of whatever they want to believe, like it being over that extended period of time, it just makes me think back on like all the events from before and just like how they must have felt, kind of maybe partially knowing the truth but like not acknowledging it. It just completely, I feel like it always completely changes the material from before when you get the opportunity to rewatch it or reread it. There's an example in my profile picture, I really like the parts in R2 that just kind of flesh out
where
the
Lelouch
fact
and
that
Suzaku
Lelouch,
kiss.
Sure, that flesh out that Lelouch like does care about people other than his sister, and like that just goes crazy, especially just like witnessing things in R1 after that R2 context. And then Suzaku has that as well, with just like knowing that he does actually I don't really have to spoil that, I'm not going to. Lelouch, I like Lelouch more, so it is what it is. I don't have to talk about the Suzaku thing.
Sad. Another thing more general that I like to think about when it comes to long stories that this isn't something that's unique to. Well, I guess it's like, I guess I just think about structure at times, mostly because it's like, I guess what I find interesting is the idea of a layered structure, where obviously, we're very familiar with like the 3-act structure, for example, but One Piece again, I think is kind of cute when it comes to the 3-act structure, because its entire world is literally like the East Blue part of the story is the first act, the Grand Line part of the story is the second act, and the New World is the third act. Like the whole world follows the structure, and the way like Luffy's low point works into him going to the New World is like, and then like it's just kind of like Shabandi Archipelago has like the low point of its own arc when Luffy punches St. Charlos and like everything goes south for them, but then like the actual fight against Kizaru and the separation of the crew, that's like the low point of Act 2. And then that leads into the war, which is Luffy's low point of the entire story. Like, it's just like, so in like literally like the span of like less than 10 volumes, you have 3 major low points, or well, technically you'd have more even, because like, Impel Down and the Paramount War had their own low points. Well, but what were you going to say?
I would say, if you want to look at it even like, to continue that, like to the next step, it's that like Fishman Island is what then, like when we look at it now, it is what directly leads to like through Wano and like sets up the start of knocking down all the dominoes that lead to the what will be the end of the story, right? Because it starts, first of all, like the stuff with Jinbei, but then also, Luffy has like the confrontation with Big Mom.
Yeah, no, I would especially, once you get to Punk Hazard, I think Law even says it, right? Where it's like them acting on Punk Hazard is kicking the gears of the next era into motion. When he gets that big speech when he cuts Virgo in half and cuts the whole mountain. God, I love that scene so fucking much.
And like,
right? And Punk Hazard also introduces Momo and Kinemon and the Luffy Law Alliance. That literally like is the whole of like the story for that part for until very recently. But sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, you're right that like it like, and I think people didn't give it credit, and that's something that like I wanted to stress when I like did, or still want to stress about like what rereading One Piece now, like in a post Wano world, it's like all of like post time skip is like completely different now, because like it feels way more, there's way more like purpose and motion in it for me going back than there was the first time. Knowing that like this is directly leading to this, and then I mean from Wano to the next thing, it's immediately clear to see like, okay, there's like,
no, that's a good point, because reading weekly like Punk Hazard was kind of fun because it's the first island that we don't know anything about in a long time, right? Because like we went like Thriller Bark would have been the last one, or no, because they went to Thriller Bark, then Shabandi, and then Luffy was kind of like drifting about in a different way for a while, and then they went to Fishman Island where they'd been trying to go 2 Cents Water 7, so like so there's still obviously adventure and new islands, but like Punk Hazard was like, there was a few chapters where we just did not know where the story was going to go, and that was rare, and then even so
well, and I think even like I remember the sentiment being when I like first started catching up, which was like Whole Cake, it was like Punk Hazard and Dressrosa were like 2 arcs that were together, and then was everything else. You know what I mean? And I think it's only like now looking at it that like that's not how it is at all. You know what I mean? Like Punk Hazard and Dressrosa are immediately building straight into everything else.
Even the fact that Water 7 were introduced to the concept of the Emperors, and then the arc following that we're introduced to Lola. And it's specifically mentioned that Moria lost to Kaido. He also has Ryuma, the samurai from Wano, as a zombie. Like, like it's immediately building literally to Wano, like since Thriller Bark, So it's like, God. But the other thing I was going to mention about like, one last thing about One Piece is going into because people like the Act 2 low points thing. I'm not going to spoil the very recent chapters of One Piece, but I definitely feel like we might be coming up to that, like especially if we're entering the final part of the story, which would be Act 3 of Act 3, then there might be a low point coming soon, possibly. I'm just gonna throw that out there, because I think people have been wanting it, because I remember people like at the end, the way Whole Cake Island ended, especially, or like the raid failing theory, where people want the Straw Hats to have this kind of loss. like I think I agree in that it's coming in the story, but I think especially like knowing where the story is now and that we're in the final part now, I think it makes it's probably going to make the most sense coming up. Like it might be.
Yeah.
But to give another One Piece is like one of the longest things. No, it's not. Actually, it's only the third longest manga. No, I think it is longer than Detective Conan. So it's only the second longest manga that I've read. But
what have I read this longer? Ippo and Baki are both longer.
Okay, yeah, that's no. I was actually no. JoJo is. I'd have to.
Is JoJo's
JoJo's weirder because I'd have to count them because it goes by volume counts. Because I can't just look at the chapters. So I'd have to see. Where, because One Piece is only at like 105, 106, so I think JoJo might be longer.
But especially because like in part 7, there's some like 100-page fucking chapters. I love part 7.
No, I'm pretty sure part 7. I think JoJo hit volume 100 in part 7, so yeah, JoJo's longer because part 8 was 20 plus volumes. So yeah. So yeah, never mind. I've read two manga longer than One Piece.
It is like that.
Yeah. But another example that I think is interesting structure-wise is Bleach, and how I like how its arcs will have a sort of main theme, and then it'll have like character themes, and what it'll do is like for a character's fight in that arc, it'll tie together the arc's theme and the character's theme, like Ikaku how he deals in luck, or Kurasuchi perfection, and so it's kind of really it's pretty neat in how, but that's again something you can only really do in a long story because a movie could have that potentially with individual character themes and their conflict in the movie, but tying into the overall theme of the movie. But you'd have to have again like a trilogy or a longer form of storytelling to do that multiple times, like Bleach does.
Yeah.
So which is it's cool.
Okay, so I want to. Oh, sorry. Were you gonna say something, Nun?
No, go ahead.
So I wanted to kind of shift, and I have to talk about one anime when I mention this, but then I'm gonna talk about a different form of long form storytelling that isn't just like anime or manga, but like the first one is like I think like one thing that like long form stories do really well that I think is like super interesting is like you spend a lot more time with the characters, and I think people get a lot more attached to them, right? So like for me, like an obvious one is just fucking like Gintama. Like after watching it all, it's like I love that cast so much. But like that also, I mean, is like a sitcom, right? And I think sitcoms are a great example of that, where people watch, like The Office for fucking like 9 seasons and they're so invested, or like Friends, you know what I mean, by like the end, and people love these shows and these characters so much. I think that's like just like good examples of like, people spend all this time with these characters, and they become like they feel like they have a bond that's more than just, you get with a character in, like a 12 episode show or, an 8-hour like video game or something.
Well, you mentioned that. I actually my brother has an interesting take on Dragon Ball, or not a take per se as in like a whole, but just like an observation that he made because that a friend of mine really liked and quoted at me because he thought it was interesting, where how like the way that the Saiyan arc goes, where like Goku has a secret twin brother who comes and kidnaps his son, is that's like basically my brother pointed out that that's a kind of plotline a soap opera would use, and I bring that up because he actually for a while watched a soap opera. Like he and my mom would watch TV a lot, and my mom, she watched I think General Hospital for literally decades, right? So there's like a form of long-term form storytelling that not only people don't think about a lot because it's just completely outside of like these spheres of discussion, even though it is like a very common and popular type of long-form storytelling. It's also just like it's completely alien to me as well because it's so different. But again, yeah, people get really invested in this long, and the character was actually alive, dead, but or alive and not dead, or that character came back and they brought back the actor after 20 years or something like that stuff kind of happens, right? And so I don't know. It's just like I just think about soap opera sometime in a non-dismissive way, even though like I will never ever actually watch one just because of like it's such a. I don't know, but they're I don't know, they're neat. They exist, and I don't think I've literally never heard anyone even bring one up online or anything about it, except in just like the general idea of them. Even though I grew up, with my mom watching them and my brother watching them for a bit. So, because you just mentioned sitcoms, and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't watch very many of those, but yeah, that's another example.
Nunmanji.
I trying to remember what I was gonna say before, but I forgot.
I'm so sorry. I'm the worst.
No, it's fine. I guess I'll talk about a different thing I wanted to mention, but it wasn't the original thing, which is like visual novels is definitely a very interesting example of a long form story, just because of like that root structure just doesn't really quite exist in the same way in other mediums. And just the fact that like, even though all the roots in a visual novel aren't necessarily like canon, in certain instances, especially when it's like, in this route the character gets with X character, but in this route they're dating this other character, so it's like they literally can't both have happened. But it's super interesting how like, even in spite of that, most visual novels still try to tie in like the themes and like the messages they're saying together across different routes, even though one of the routes didn't happen at all. And I think that's super interesting in the sense that like, a lot of people really, really care about like the idea of canon, of like, this did happen. This is the true canon. And it really bothers people when there's like contradictions in a canon of like, you know, GT can't have existed and doesn't matter anymore because Super's a thing. Or even just like in instances where like something happens and it introduces like a plot hole for the series. Like an example, I guess, would be like in the Akito movies for Code Geass, the way it uses Lelouch and Suzaku, it puts into question like, could the Akito movies have happened? But because the Akito movies would have had to happen between R1 and R2. But it's just weird that like all this stuff involving Lelouch and Suzaku happened and it isn't addressed at all in R2. And there's like some other specificities to it that makes it kind of weird. To me, it kind of very loosely almost could have happened and works, even though I don't think the Akito movies are good. But I just think it's super interesting in the sense that like, I am someone that also gets like really bothered by like, what is the actual canon, and like, it's hard for me to value something that I know that didn't actually happen in the quote unquote canon. But like, visual novels are that one thing where like, I've never really thought about like the idea of like, oh, this didn't matter because it's not canon, or like, this isn't still really good even though it didn't necessarily happen. Like, I guess, you know, the only visual novel I've completed so far, Angel Beats, pretty much all of the roots are canon except for one. Yeah, all the roots are canon except for one, I think, off the top of my head. But that one route that isn't canon is still like really good. And like, I still very much appreciate it, and I think it still does like lend more to Odanashi's character and the characters involved, especially because like, you don't see the character in that route. It's like backstory in the same way without that route, even though like not all the events happened. And I think that's a very interesting thing that you can do in stories that become so long and have so many different moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just trying to think about what else I have to say, but I don't think I have much to say left.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if something you guys were talking about before is what made me think of the thing that I wanted to say before, but I don't really know.
I mentioned like, sitcoms, soap operas. I think I mentioned Bleach's thematic structure.
Yeah, I mean,
it's fine.
You know,
it's whatever.
If we're just naming like long form stories, like book series, so like Harry Potter, is one. Just Crafts made it sound like he was just naming stuff. I'm gonna throw that in there.
Yeah, I was just trying to.
No, I get you. I was
memory,
just, I don't know. We can move on. Sorry, I like basically started recording like straight from work, so I'm kind of tired, but it is what it is. Do you want to go to the weekly backlog, or?
Yeah, we can go ahead. So I mean, I'm just gonna mention off the bat, I want to do 2 rotations, even if I guess Vindy might not have 2 things. Or something.
Hold on, I might.
Okay,
I have one for sure.
So I'll start off with the classic, the Code Geass, as usual.
All right.
I watched the first set of picture dramas, which is 9 of them. They're for season 1 specifically. They were surprisingly good. I didn't expect them to be like bad or anything, but I definitely did get like a little bit out of them. I thought the first one and the last one were two that were interesting and good in particular. I like the first one for like, I like the first and the second one for similar reasons, ironically, which is that like, the first one I liked the look, like its look at Suzaku like as a kid, and like kind of since we know like Suzaku's personality as a kid was like different than he is now, it was kind of interesting to see like more ways that he's like him as a kid is like current Lelouch. I thought that was like super cool to see. And I also like how Lelouch as a kid, he's like kinder than he is now. Like Lelouch is still like kind, especially to Nunnally, like in the present, but like there's definitely that more of that innocence and more of that way a kid goes about things. And then that last one, what I really like about that one is like it takes place in that little window of time before Suzaku confronts Lelouch at the end of R1. And he's like thinking about all these things, and he's like, it's even more so pushing that idea of that Suzaku doesn't necessarily think that him killing his father and stopping the war in the way he did was necessarily the correct decision, but like he's kind of stuck with that, and he's kind of just trying to do what he's doing now to because it's like already too late to turn back, so he might as well keep going down this path, and like, you know, that's why he's part of the Britannia army and all that. And I really like how he mentions Lelouch and is thinking about Lelouch even before he finds out that Lelouch is Zero. Just because we know later on when that reveal happens that Suzaku has been like suspecting Lelouch, but like he didn't want to believe it. And seeing this, he like it just almost like he was just already like 80% sure that Zero's just Lelouch right before that final moment, which is funny. Yeah, I thought it was really good. I also like some of the fan service stuff of just like, you know, there's the fucking bath scene. They go to the beach. They have Lelouch in beach clothing, like, hello. And then they also cross-dress.
Does he pleasure himself with the fish?
Sir?
Oh, like you don't know? Hold on, I gotta find that. Hold on, give me a minute.
That's where the spoon images on the Reddit came from, where they're just like cross-dressing. Yeah, it was pretty good. I liked some of the information that it gave. I will watch the other ones at some point.
Yeah.
Neat. Okay.
Are you done?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay,
I'm not done. You can go ahead. I'm going to interview with Suzaku and a fish in a moment, but you can go ahead.
All right. So The Last of Us Season 1 finished. And it's super, super fucking good. Actually crazy fucking good. Like, I was into it basically the whole, like, from episode 1, but just it adapted the game so fucking well into 9 episodes. And it adapts like the full game, like including the DLC, and like it obviously like has to cut things out to like fit into, you know, 9 hours of television, because, you know, the game's kind of actually roughly like 9 hours long, so even then it kind of works. But you know, like, God, I gotta close fucking the Discord browser. None's distracting me with what he's posting. God, maybe I should rewatch Code Geass, huh? Like, it just adapts so well, and like it cuts out a lot of the action, but it replaces it with other things. And I think in some of the ways, they like are better. Like the way it handles like the section that revolves around a character Bill, I think it is just better in the show. Like it
yeah, I've heard
I think
a lot
it
about
fits
that.
into the themes of the series better. And like, you know, The Last of Us is all kind of like about this one, not just about one idea, but a lot of it is leading narratively to this one moment that happens at the end of the game. It's like the climax of the story. And a lot of the things that happen, like, even the game itself is kind of like episodic, where it's like you kind of have like this little section here, and then this section, and then this section, and then this section. And what a surprise, most of those just individual sections kind of make for really good individual episodes. You know what I mean? And where you would have like, you know, the little cut in the game to the next one. It's just the end of the episode. Who knew? It works fucking like perfectly, right? And so because of that, it works, and it just spends a lot more time not in combat, right? Because, you know, there is some action in the show, but not as much. But I still think it does it so well. And I mean, you know, when you look at the credits when you're watching the show, like Neil Druckmann was a writer on like every episode. He directed a bunch of them. You know, like, so the creator of the game is like directly involved. So like, of course, like it gets it, but like it's so good. The actors are all fucking great. Pedro Pascal is great. Bella Ramsey's great. And then it's funny when you see like the like voice actors for Joel and Ellie in the games in the show, because they both like play different characters, and you can like hear
that's good
the characters in the voices. Especially like I could hear Ellie's in
Ashley Johnson
just
when
sounds
she's
like
there.
Ellie.
It's fucking great.
That's pretty good.
So yeah, I like it a lot. I think that I could pretty confidently say I like it more than I like Last of Us, like the show, more than the first game. But what I can't say is that I would like it more than the remake version, because I really like the fucking gameplay changes in like Last of Us 2 and missed them like replaying 1, and like Last of Us 1, like that fucking engine they have for 2, like it looks so fucking good. And I've seen gameplay and it like looks so crazy that I could see myself like liking that more, just like, you know what I mean, kind of off that. But right now where I stand, I think the show is like better than the game. Like it's crazy. Shit goes dummy hard.
It's super cool seeing like a little bit of the details I've been seeing about like what they've been adding and what they've been like changing, that I'm super curious, especially when like they seem like they're interested in telling some stories that weren't included in the game, or like very much not as emphasized,
or just like couldn't have been in a game. Like the way that the show does a lot of like the conflicts and stuff just like wouldn't work in a game, but work really well on a television show, you know?
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be especially interesting to see how they handle part 2, since like part 2 is just denser than part 1 in like almost every way. Like, well, they confirmed that it's lengthwise
multiple seasons.
Yeah, I did see that,
which is exciting. And I'm very excited to see Abby, and to see more people react, because like, you know, gamers are cringe, and I think everyone knows that gamers are sweaty cringe losers, right? And so like they didn't like Last of Us 2
when
for
you
all sorts.
last episode when you referred to me, it's like, oh, your turn, gamer. I see what you meant.
No,
okay.
I call people gamer outside of that, right? I'm talking about gamers that get upset on Twitter and cry about Last of Us Part 2 and haven't played it, or played it just like, this game sucks. You're ill. You're mentally ill. Get some help. Go replay the game. You'll like realize you were wrong, right? I'm interested to see other people then react to that content in a show that probably will continue to be as good, and see more people will eventually realize that like Abby's great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, cool. I was curious about people disconnected from the games in general, how they would feel about it.
Yeah.
Okay, are you ready or done rather?
I will say I would very much enjoy if y'all would watch the show.
I'll watch it soon. Potentially honestly, after I finish Vinland Saga.
It's good.
A big part of the reason I didn't even like look at comments earlier is because I've I don't know, I fucking set myself up for failure, because I have like so many things, like I'll do this once a day, like, but all these 4 or 5 things. So honestly, like by the time I come home from work and then I do all those things, like I really don't have that much time left. So I'm kind of screwing myself over in that way, but I'll have to figure that out.
Fair enough.
Okay, never mind. That's
okay. I did forget about that.
All right, this image.
Did it upload or no?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Okay. I forgot about that.
Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to share that. And so anyway, so yeah, I watched One Piece Film Red as mentioned, and specifically I watched it in a call with Mathwas because we literally just finished Wano, and she's been doing her whole anime, shonen anime filler movie script that she's talked about for a while, and yeah, we both really liked it. But I guess what I do want to say about it firsthand is that like it's a product of the anime in that I think because it does share some of the anime's problems. Like, so as a movie, like, like there's just some little like nitpicks I have. Like, there's some moments where Luffy kind of acts in a way that I feel like he maybe wouldn't act in, from my understanding of him in the manga. Or like, there's one part that bugged me a little when Luffy gets stopped because some people throw water on him. And in the SBS, it's obvious that, Oda mentioned that, water that runs off the body, like, isn't enough to, tire out a fruit user like Rain or something like that. And so the idea of, like, one of the strongest pirates in the setting getting, stunned because a bucket of water, comes across as a little absurd to me. And then also as a movie, I felt like, there's a lot of characters in the movie, because of course Bartolome is a popular character. They're just going to throw him in there, and not that it's, unreasonable that a bunch of characters can show up given the setting, but, it's still just like, it's a lot. And, some characters in particular, I feel like were included because of their powers, their devil fruit powers. One of them is definitely, Bluno, and because he's got the Dordor fruit. Like, just the way he keeps talking about, like, oh, I can't use my powers, or there's limits to my powers, and then he just keeps using his powers anyway. I'm like, okay, I don't know why you felt the need to mention that. Where the other character, they do some kind of cool things with that character, just like and like there's more going on with it, which is fun. It's Brule, the fucking mirror lady from Whole Cake Island. Originally, well, so like, yeah, but so like, and that's because it's like, it's a product of the anime, but it's like, one of the things I do like about it is also the fact that, like, yeah, it kind of, like, the manga can't do this story or these things. And like, one thing I did not fucking expect going into the movie is that the Straw Hat Pirates and some of the Big Mom Pirates were gonna fucking team up. I'm like, what? That's stupid, and it doesn't make sense, but, like, it led to some cool, like, team-up attacks, and, like, the fact that, like, yeah, Brulee's there. Katakuri is briefly in the movie, and I'm like, what? Kata fucking Curry? Hello? Like, it's just, like, it doesn't make, because, again, like, the timeline doesn't make sense, because Jinbei's with the crew, but, it happens to Big Mom, and that shit we don't even know in a lot of ways, right? So it doesn't work. But, like, because it's kind of like throwing away the verisimilitude in a sense, it's able to do some cute, fun things that I thought were fine, like, I'm not gonna get hung up, especially because I was even thinking about how, like, because I've watched a lot of, like, Kamen Rider and Super Sentai and Precure, and they'll do crossovers, and they also kind of don't give it too much of a shit about, like, inter-series continuity, because it's like, well, why the fuck do they have to care about building this world when most of their audience is gonna fucking grow out of Kamen Rider in, like, 3 years? And then the people getting into Kamen Rider after those 3 years are literal fucking babies who don't give a shit about the last 20, 50 years of the franchise, right? So, so in the case of One Piece, where it's at such a level of popularity that there are casual One Piece fans who will just, like, turn on an episode and they're like, I know Luffy. Who the fuck's this Top Knot guy? Why is he fighting a dragon? I don't fucking know, but it's cool. It looks cool. That's just, yeah, it's fucking One Piece. They'll watch a movie and they really only know Luffy. And that's the thing, is because, like, another thing I was going to add is that, like, the scale of the movie, in a sense, is, like, it's too small for the manga. And what I mean by that is in the 2-hour runtime, kind of, like, there's a bunch of characters in the movie, but at the end of the day, the only ones who really, I feel like, matter are Luffy, Shanks, and Uta. Where, like, in the manga, obviously, like, to compare it to, like, the currently ongoing 20-chapter arc, I could literally name 6 characters who are, like, centrally important to just this arc, and never mind the far-reaching consequences it might have to the story, right? Like if Oda were to tell a story with this character, it would have to be much bigger in regards to, like, how it related to the other characters, right? So, like, by being a movie, it's able to just tell this one story in, like, 2 hours, and there's cool action and cool visuals, and I had a fun fucking time with it. I like Film Red a lot. I mean, part of it is because, like, so, what do you guys know about Film Red, actually? Because I'm not going to spoil the big stuff for sure. But,
some songs in it are fucking banger.
Oh my god. Okay, I've literally been listening to Uta's songs since I watched the movie on Sunday.
I have that playlist like added. Like I like the
I
artist already, but some bangers in there.
I was literally listening to the songs while I was waiting for the podcast to start. Like I've been unable to turn them off, which in turn has kept making me think about Uta, who I think is not only like literally like, I mean, okay, who the fuck else is there going to be an anime original character who I like more than her? I can't even think of who would be in the running. Because partly because I literally haven't seen most of the anime. Like the last time I watched the anime was like Stampede, and I rewatched Film 1 when we talked about both of those, right? Yeah, we talked about both of those, Vindy.
Yeah, maybe.
Like that was the last time I watched the One Piece. Oh no, and like a couple episodes, but they were adapting manga content, so there wouldn't be any anime original characters. And like I don't just like yeah, Uta is really good, and like as just a character in One Piece, and I've like God, like I was literally like the day after I watched the movie, I was thinking about her at work and fucking tearing up and being like, fuck, I like this character a lot. And a movie's just, yeah, it's super fun. I like the anime original character, you know, again, yeah, and there's some concessions I have to make in that, yeah, it doesn't fit into One Piece through some little like in character stuff and some setting stuff and obviously continuity stuff especially, but like, you know, it tells a story, it does a good job. Like, yeah, the visuals are cool. Like when during those music parts, there's parts that are like diegetic, but there's also like more abstract, you know, music video-esque visuals thrown in there. The color choices are really cool during a lot of the segments. Like it's just visually, I fucking wish I saw the movie in theater. Like, God, it would have been so cool to watch it with other One Piece fans who would have been reacting to like the characters who show up or the jokes. Like, I was thinking about it because Law and Beppo show up, and it's really funny because like Law comes out and they're like, "Hey, are you here for the Uta concert?" And he's like, "No, I'm escorting a friend." And Beppo's comes out. He's decked out in fucking idol gear. He has like a backpack that like two fans come out with like Uta's name on them or something like that. Like it just fucking decked out in the most idol degenerate shit. And I thought it was really fucking funny. And I was even thinking about it, it's like, I don't think Beppo has a better moment in the manga. Like this movie just gave him like a really funny moment, and for a minor character, that's just it's good. So you know, like yeah, I've just been thinking about the movie constantly because again, I'm listening to the music, and yeah, it's a really fun movie, and I think people should, you know, again, just be aware of some of the, you know, there's gonna be some weird stuff just because of like its existence as an anime original film, but the stuff that's there that's good is still really fucking good. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say on Film Red.
Can I just say, sorry,
Yeah.
None, actually, to cut you off,
Yes,
but
actually, let None go because you cut him off before and forgot what he wanted to say.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
I love the way you told that like story of you watching the movie Craftsdwarf, because it was so you and it was so funny because you start it and you're like, you know what? There's like some small things that like, because I'm such a big One Piece fan, I noticed and it kind of ticked me off. But then I remembered that just like I'm based and cool and I don't care about like the stupid stuff and I'm not going to sweat it and I'm just going to sit down and have a good time. And I really enjoyed myself. And it's like, what an arc. You know what I mean? Banger. I loved it.
It's not my fault. Uda is so fucking good. Like, God. Yeah. Oh, and I guess if anyone's worried about spoilers, there are some like visual spoilers for a visual spoiler for something that happens in Wano. But it's also kind of like blink and you miss it. And then also we've literally mentioned in the podcast, but spoilers, Jinbei becomes one of the Straw Hats and he's just chills. Guys, I love seeing Jinbei just hang out with the Straw Hats. He's good. I love Fish Dad. But yeah, I'm done.
Okay, guess I'll do my second rotation. I could do more Code Geass, dude. But I finished The Silent Voice.
Oh, the manga, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. Because if you wouldn't watch the movie like in two halves over the course of 2 weeks,
dude, he might.
I really enjoyed it a lot. That teacher is literally the worst guy ever.
Yeah.
I don't understand how he got even worse later on, even though he isn't their teacher anymore. Like when he shows up again and he's just like literally just like doesn't care about the stuff he's saying and just like saying like, oh, Shoya, you got unlucky that you had someone like this in your class, and he's like kind of justifying how Shoya was, and it's just like, holy shit, this guy. And even just like in the moment in the past when he was just like, he literally already knew all the bullying was going on, but like he very clearly didn't put that much effort into stopping it. It was just kind of like a burden for him, and he was just kind of lazy about it. It's like he's
LMAO,
just like,
kids just being kids.
he's just the epitome of like every shitty teacher ever, where he's just like super complacent about like negative stuff going on in front of his face. Like
Also,
just,
as someone who's been called out for pronouncing the word wrong, it's epitome.
okay,
I understand. I'm sorry. I just like I've been there.
Yeah, he's just literally every bad teacher ever. Like he's only like the only times that he calls out Shoya before like he literally is forced to. It's just kind of one of those things to make himself like look like he's not bad and look like he's trying to do something, and gives him an out for when like ultimately, you know, that principle and it escalates. He can kind of pretend like he's always been trying to stop it and all these things, which is what he does, especially when he like yells at Shoya in front of the principal and stuff when he finally gets caught. But in general, it was really good. I really appreciated like getting to see different parts of the story. It's one of those things where like the adaptation obviously changes some things. I still think the movie's better. I like the movie more, but I get different things out of the manga because it has that movie arc, like the actual like making of that movie and all the details surrounding that, and kind of like the group is more important in the manga than they are in the show. Like don't like they're definitely still important in the show, but like I feel like I care about the group a little more after reading it. And I super liked seeing Tomohiro make his like movie, and kind of like other people, especially those critics, like literally just didn't understand it. Well, yeah, they didn't really understand it, and like the meaning of like him wanting to spread these friendship messages didn't get through to them, but like he still really valued making it, and like the whole group really valued making it, and like it was still worth being made because it like had those messages that they got and that they understood, because it was like kind of about them, and that was like super touching. Definitely Shoya's still super good. I super relate to like kind of like the idea of like, you know, wanting to change but like kind of slipping back in old habits. Like Shoya, like even though like he doesn't want, like in instances like that, like the bridge scene where he kind of just like melts down and kind of just like tells everyone off and like shuts down and says like all these mean things, or even just like little instances when like he's trying to be nice to that that one girl, like the mean girl or whatever, I forget what her name is. He's like trying to be nice to her and trying to be the person he wants to be, but like she keeps like saying all these things, and she's like saying some of these old insults that they would say to each other, and then he just like has this complete like reversion to his child self, where like one of like I think she's calling him ugly, 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 and then he says stupid, 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 or it's the reverse, but it's one of those. Yeah, there's just like a lot of instances in A Silent Voice that it's like, yeah, this is relatable.
Yeah, like it's a
Shoya
hard
is cool.
Like it's a hard journey for him to change, and he has to like really try and work for it. But like, you know what I mean? Like over time, he does get there.
Yeah, and like even when he's like better, like you know, you can't completely expect to like be there immediately, and some minor things will stick with you, but it's like, you know, it's still about the journey of trying to change, and the fact that you acknowledge that you have to change in the first place, and the fact that you're trying is like the super important thing. And I like how the characters ultimately do see that about Shoya, especially like after the big event happens.
Well, I think that's also shown really well with the mean girl at the end, where like they see the one little thing from her, and like we as the audience see the one little thing, but we understand as like they all learned. You know what I mean? It's about starting to change. That's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I actually kind of like how at the end of the manga they have that part where he's I mean, I don't really think this is like a super crazy bad spoiler or anything, but the part where he's about to like, him and her are about to do something that they haven't done in a very long time, I guess. But they don't really like show it. But I feel like it kind of works actually to leave off on that note. Like I actually think we didn't need to see that because we've already like seen all the change that they've undergone and kind of like know they'll be fine, and like, you know, there's still like a super great future for them. I also like how even though there is romance and even though like they both like each other, it's still not like it is a romance story too, but I kind of like how I like the level of which importance it plays it to the point where it's like not the most important thing, but not like the least important thing. Like it's just enough. I feel like super good manga. I liked it a lot. Yeah.
Nice.
He's just like me for real. He's Shoya's definitely one of those. He's in the same league as Ray from Sangatsu.
Yeah, he is.
Or Reki from Hyoka. Like he's one of those type of
Subaru
characters. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna make a terrible joke, but I won't.
What? Say it.
It's been a while since I read or watched Koe no Katachi, but I didn't remember the main character being black.
Jesus.
Okay.
That was the sister's boyfriend, remember?
No, I do not.
The Brazilian guy, that guy's funny. He's just a big black Brazilian. It's funny.
It is funny.
She went for the BBC.
Actually, it's VBBC.
Damn, he's right. He got you there. All right. Do I gotta come up with something?
If you want to, or you
Apparently.
cannot. It's your choice.
Can I talk about something that's funny that isn't something I completed, but something that I just found out about?
Okay.
Please.
What?
So
Go
they
ahead.
announced a Persona 5 Gotcha game that, like, the news of this came out while we were recording, but they announced like a Persona 5 Gotcha game, and it looks really high quality. But get this, here's the best part. It's only confirmed for China, and they just said undecided for Japan. That shit's only coming out in China, dude. We lost to communism yet again. I can't believe it. They got Atlas
Gotcha
making
games,
this high
okay.
quality
That-
Persona
oh my-
5 Gotcha
Oh,
game
yeah.
for China exclusively. I love it. I love the world we're in.
That's interesting because, like, I remember one of the fears with sort of China becoming bigger in animation is that the idea that because they have money, so they literally just buy the Japanese animators because they need money. And now anime dies and Chinese anime is real. So I remember that being one of the concerns, and here it is kind of happening with this Gotcha game where, because as I understand, like, I can understand there's so many Gotcha games that get released in Japan that don't get released in America, and so many Gotcha games in America just fucking tank. You know, so like but the fact that here's a Gotcha on a Japanese franchise that's super fucking popular, not even just in Japan, and Japan doesn't get it.
So, I mean, Japan might.
Well, maybe
get it.
not. Maybe
It's just currently undecided for.
the fact that it's up in the air at all is funny. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Well, I hope it doesn't come over because they play enough mobile games. They've ruined enough of society with their mobile game addiction. That's why Kingdom Hearts is the way it is. And I'm not going to lie. It's a good series, but some of its faults definitely come from that mobile game brain rot.
You know what? I don't even know if I can disagree.
Okay, so I assume Vindy's done because he didn't even touch the thing. It's literally hasn't even been known to exist.
It just I'm sorry. That's so insane. I have to mention it. I apologize.
No, it's fair. No, you're fair. So anyway, last year I watched Isekai Quartet, and more recently I also watched the movie. But I will say I definitely like the series better. And
Banger.
So I gotta say, because one thing, you guys haven't seen it because you guys haven't seen all of the shows.
Yeah,
Isekai
I
Quartet
only
yet.
haven't seen one of them, sadly.
Yeah. So I kind of realized while watching it is just like, or remembering while even thinking about discussing it, is that like I think I just fundamentally like the idea of crossovers. Like I remember as a kid being hyped is like, Fairly Odd Parents and Jimmy Neutron are crossing over. What? And then like
you were
Recreators
not a
was kind
kid
of
when
cool.
that came out.
Yes, I was.
No
Shut the
shot.
fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the
Craftsdwarf,
fuck up.
please.
You're not even real. Kill yourself. Anyway, So, like, Recreators is, like, it's not even crossing over real things, but there's a fucking mecha pilot, and a magical girl, and a paladin, and a dude with a gun, and it's fucking cool. Like, I like crossovers. So, Isekai Quartet is like, okay, here's, like, several series I really fucking like. I do like, at least to some degree, every series that's in it, for sure. And it's, like, it's just really, it's a very funny show, and it does, like, it just plays with the characters in a really fun way. Like, they're just in a school. They all literally hit a red button and they're just in the school for some reason. The setting literally doesn't even make sense in universe, and they're just like, why the fuck are we at a school? Maybe there's some other shit going on. I don't fucking know. I guess we're gonna get more Isekai Quartet. Whatever. But, like, it's funny. They play the characters off really well. Like, there's just so many gags and interactions. Like, especially like the Konosuba characters, just the fact, like, because Aqua, you know, she's a goddess, so she hates, like, demons and undead, so she just immediately fucking hates Ainz and all their dudes, because they're, like, she's like, fuck you guys. And then, so Tanya, her whole thing is that, as a Japanese salaryman, he was, like, killed, and a being X, as he dubs it, calling itself a god, basically is like, well, fucking revere me, or I'm gonna, and since you're not revering me, I'm just gonna fucking put you into this war world. So Tanya just fucking hates God, so she just hates Aqua, like, immediately, because she keeps calling herself a goddess, and, like, they'll just do shit like that, and then, like, there's just some fun interactions, and just the characters just being fucking dummies, and it's, just, I just had a lot of fun watching the 2 seasons.
Who's the GOAT
what's up?
in Isekai Quartet? Like, who is the character that, like, made you laugh the most as you were watching?
That's a good question. Let me think.
And if you can't think of a specific, like, single character, then which, like, 2 characters' interactions got you going the most?
Sorry, I'm looking through my notes. Okay, so actually, the moment that got me, like, the character I'm thinking of the most isn't actually, like, a comedy character. It's fucking Amelia, because so she gets made the class rep, and they make it work for her character in that, like, here's this character who in her world she was, discriminated against and, has no self-value. Now she's in a classroom full of fucking weirdos in a position of leadership, and, like, there's literally just, like, a wholesome moment with her talking about Puck about being class rep, and it's literally just, like, here she is in, like, kind of the ideal environment for her. Like, it's not even played up as a joke or anything. It's just, like, makes me feel good for Amelia, who needs good things to happen to this poor fucking woman.
Okay, I need to watch Isekai Quartet.
It respects the characters a lot, and does, and I think, even if it was ultimately a comedy, it's still, like, I think the only character I felt like a little, like, because Darkness is great, but I felt like, I mean, maybe it's true of more of the characters. I just noticed it for Darkness because her shtick is very, like, clear, but, like, I felt like
a little flanderized.
Yeah, a little bit, where it's like everything that involving her was almost, it was like, there's, like, a couple jokes about her tits. There's, she can't hit anything in combat, or, like, she plays baseball and she strikes out because she can't hit anything.
Can I be honest,
like,
though?
That one's pretty funny. And, yeah, of course, yeah, her masochism. But what were you going to say?
That's, like, kind of how Darkness is, like, in the series, though. Like,
you're not wrong. Like, she does have character stuff, and obviously Isekai Quartet wouldn't be a fit for the character stuff. And, I mean, and I feel like maybe, like, with Megumin, it's like, cause thinking about it, it's like, well, yeah, she's a Chunibyo, like, how much else should she do? But for Darkness, for some reason, I noticed it more, so I'm not saying that, like, it's different for other characters, but I just noticed it for Darkness specifically, for whatever reason.
Yeah, I get that. I just, I guess what I would say is, like, I think Darkness's masochism stuff, and, like, her character as a whole, and all the characters, but, like, are already turned up to 11 in Konosuba already, so I feel like that is still staying true to the character, you know what I mean?
Right, no, for sure.
Like, in Konosuba, their dice are weighted against them, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, another scene I remembered that was really interesting is because Ainz, like, they're doing a test, and Ainz, of course, like, he's expected to be smart, so I need to ace this test. So he casts a time stop spell, and then he does it, and then Aqua realized, like, she wasn't time stopped because she's a goddess. Subaru wasn't time stopped because he kind of deals with time inherently. Tanya wasn't time stopped because whenever Being X talks to her, he stops time. So he just, like, does a spell, and then there's just, like, this gradual, like, oh fuck, it didn't work. Like, because
but
he's
it's
like,
all
he
the
can't
stupid
cheat.
characters that could cheat.
the first thing Aqua does is cheat, and she gets fucking busted when the time stop spell ends because she's fucking Aqua. And
That's my first thought immediately. There's like, that's all the dumbasses, like the ones who want to cheat.
But like, and it was just like, so no, not only was it funny, but I was also just watching it, and then watching like having that, oh, this character can move. Oh, I've watched this series. I know why that character can move, right? Like that, or I think they explain it in the show too. But it's just like, I don't know, it's just really fun. In that way, like as well. Though they do, there's definitely some handwave stuff. Like there's mentions like, I think Aqua does return undead and it actually fucks over Ainz and stuff. And I think Demiurge mentions like the power scaling and this balance in this world is fucked up because it's like, you know, it's more for the comedy in that sense. Because like, would Aqua's stuff actually affect them that much? I don't know. But it's like, it doesn't matter. It's at the end of the day. But yeah, and the movie is a bit more serious in that it actually has more of a narrative, but it's still fun and funny in its own right. Even though it's definitely my least favorite part of Isekai Quartet. The one fucking thing that I was looking up, because there's 2 movie original characters. Well, I guess the idea is that because there's like a bunch of golems that are mentioned to be from the Overlord universe, and then there's 2 movie original characters. One who's kind of like Kobosuba connected, and one who's Tanya connected. The ReZero character literally shows up in the series later on in the light novels. He has not shown up in the anime yet, but as I was looking up, I was like, wait, this fucker is just from ReZero. And I just don't know if he's Steel yet because he hasn't shown up in the anime yet. And I was like, why are you in this movie?
That goes so hard, though, if you like had read the ReZero light novels, right? And all of a sudden get to see this guy.
Not even that, but I found out even before I watched the show that apparently it references stuff that happens in the light novels, but before it was animated. Like in season 1 of Isekai Quartet, which came up before the Frozen Bond, Amelia was surfing on the ice, which is something she does in that movie/novel. And then there's also a gag where Momonga, not Momonga, Momonga is the adventure. The fucking hamster that Ainz has in Overlord, he like bites Subaru because he mentions how chewable he is. And I remember like having like, oh god, Subaru being chewed on by rodents, season 2, and yeah, which again, that hadn't been, I don't think that had been animated, but no, that definitely hadn't been animated by the time this season of Isekai. So they're referencing shit that haven't, that like, you know, so the staff isn't only drawing from the anime, they're familiar with the source material as well, so it's like, you know, they're able to do like deeper cuts like that, you know, if you're watching it as it aired and only watching the anime of these series, which I only have. I've never read any of these light novels. So, I don't know, Isekai Quartet it's a fucking great and funny crossover. It's a good show, and I'm very glad to have watched all the, I will say, because there's, Cautious Hero is literally just like an Easter egg. Like they're doing a culture festival, and like we see Seiya and Restarte, and she's like, I want to go to the culture festival, and Seiya's like, no, it's too dangerous, and he like drags her away, and she like whines, and that's it. That's like, you have to know the premise of Cautious Hero basically to get that reference. But in the other cases, I think you want to have like some at least, you know, a season or 2 of the context from the series so that you can understand the references. Like there's one gag where Seiya does his like cursed shield during like a fucking dodgeball game or something, and it's just like commented on how stupid that was, and I wouldn't know how stupid that was if I hadn't watched the show and known how like the toll it takes on him and like what it means for his character. Like the joke wouldn't have worked if I wasn't familiar with Shield Hero, right? So yeah. But yeah, I think that's about all I have to say. Good show, good series. I think is there going to be a season 3? I feel like there is, but I very much look forward to it. So yeah.
Yeah.
So what's up next week, guys?
I do not know. None. You say something. Give me a second to think.
So more gay assing, obviously. Other than that, I want to finish Vinland because like I'm getting kind of tired of watching it a little bit, but I also don't feel like watching that much. Like I would have to watch 12 episodes, and like for something else it wouldn't be that much, but it'd be like I don't know if I'm gonna watch 12.
I know how much of Vinland Saga is there? Like, because I know there's season 2 at some point.
I'm not watching season 2. Okay, it's already coming out. I'm not watching it.
Okay. I'm definitely going to have 20th Century Boys finished rereading by next week. Someone in the comments mentioned like a perfect edition. I don't know what the fuck that is. I literally just have my physical volumes because I bought it years ago, so I don't think I have that version. I didn't know about it until that comment brought it up, even though the perfect edition is like several years old apparently. So I might like finish rereading it and then maybe hunt down, because apparently there's some ending additions / changes. I don't fucking know. I need to read the comment again. And then yeah, probably something else that I read or watched last year aside from 20th Century Boys.
Yeah, I already know what specific gay assing thing I'm gonna do. It's gonna be
the DS game.
No, you guys can't predict what it is.
Because you're a coward and you won't play the DS game.
Who knows? I might do something crazy. I might do something wild. I got a couple days off where I don't have to go into work until Tuesday, so I might just do something in that time. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Who knows?
All right.
All right.
So yeah, I guess that about covers it. So yeah, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.
See ya later.